Welcome back to Old War Stories with Uncle Jay. This one is entitled, My Car Won't Shut Off. This is dating back to about 1997 or 1998. Can't quite place exactly. Summer, it was hot, and I was working at the Wiz. I was over on the computer side of the store, and this was called the home office department. We had 6 guys, 7 guys, something like that. So I don't remember exactly what the deal was, but there was this kid who was Chinese. We called him Chinese. I don't know what exactly it was. He was Asian, Oriental, whatever you want to call it. Nice kid. His name was Tuan. Tuan. Tuan had a friend whose name was Paul. Paul was interesting because Paul was just a regular white guy, but he had an interesting last name. Fellin. Paul Felon. Paul Felony? Paul Felon? Paul Felon what? Paul fell into trouble with the law? I don't know, but his last name was Felon. Anyways, Paul and Tuan were the Bobbsey twins. They were great friends, and somehow they both got to work at the Wiz, and they were there for maybe a year before I was, something like that. Both nice guys. So you can get along easy with them. So I don't know what the deal was. I don't know where Paul was at the time, but it's a summer day, 1997, 1998. I had my old Chevy, and Tuan went to lunch. Could have been a Sunday. Yeah, it probably was a Sunday. Tuan went to lunch. Hot day. It was either a 1984 or 1986 Honda Accord. This is one of them early style ones, and one of my aunt used to have one like that, so I actually remembered it. But he had one. I don't remember if it was fuel injected or carbureted. Probably fuel injected, but it would be a really early fuel injection system. Well, anyways, Tuan went to lunch, and it's getting on time that I should be going to lunch, but I got to wait till Tuan gets back, and it's well past his lunchtime, and we come I don't know, 15 minutes later, something like that, and Tuan walks in, hot, sweaty, out of breath, and I said, "Where the hell were you?" He said, I'm stuck at the bank up the block." What do you mean? Your car wouldn't start? He says, "No, it won't shut off." Huh? What are you talking about? So he his car would not shut off. He couldn't explain it any better than that to me. But man, oh man. I said, what happened when you shut the key? Did it run any differently? Did it just not, I said, what about pulling the coil wire, something, or shutting the air intake off, something to stall it. Pulled some spark plug wires, pulled something, I don't know anything about cars. Okay. Now we had to wait for 10 minutes until somebody else, and I don't know why I didn't drive or what the deal was, but I went along, and somehow we just both snuck out along with some other kid who drove us. And Tuan's like, "Wait, we have to stop at my house first because my cousin is there, but he's sleeping right now, so I have to get him up because he knows about cars." So Tuan's car is sitting in a bank down the road. It's been running for at least a half hour. And now we get in the car with this other kid and we go to Tuan's block. And Tuan runs in and wakes his cousin up or some shit like that. And the cousin finally like gets himself together, comes out. This is like, it felt like another 10 minutes. So it's now on like 40 minutes going. And we go down to the bank. So now another 5 minutes down to the bank. And like I said, Tuan couldn't explain what he meant by my car won't shut off. What he meant was his car didn't stop running when he shut the key off. Doesn't mean it didn't stop running properly when he shut the key off. Tuan's car was dieseling. Now, dieseling, or a run-on condition, happens on older vehicles, typically carbureted, especially when the engine is extra carboned up or it's got a lot of miles on it. And basically what happens is you shut the key off and the little pieces of carbon that are in the cylinders are glowing red hot, and they're just hot enough that the next charge of fuel and air comes in the cylinder. The intake valve closes, it compresses, and that glowing thing, like a cigarette butt kind of thing, is enough to ignite that mixture, send the piston down, and then you have however many pistons in your engine, and however many you're doing it, and you have this condition where the engine runs on. So typically what happens, you'll shut it off and it'll kind of go and kind of run like that. It'll cough and spit and whatever. My old Chevy used to do this from time to time, and I always found that whenever that happened, for whatever reason, whenever it did it, it only lasted a good like 5 seconds where it would do that, and then it would finally stall out. And I would always restart it right after that, and then shut it back off. It may sound like that doesn't make any sense, but my starter was on its way, shall we say. So whenever you had to restart the old Chevy after it had dieseled, it would always take a lot of cranking before it would start again. But if you left it, then the starter would conk out and you couldn't get the engine started. I actually got stuck that way once. But if you did it right away, there was like enough chooch or enough something that it would restart and then you'd shut it off. If it dieseled again, you'd have to do it again. But usually it didn't, and then that was it. But here's Tuan's car dieseling itself to death for 45 minutes on a hot summer day. The cousin gets out, there's steam coming from under the hood, because remember, while this engine is going, it's just barely chugging over. So the water pump is not moving coolant around very efficiently, and the radiator cooling fan, which was electric on this thing, if I recall, there's no way that's going on because the key was turned off. Anyway, the cousin gets there and he goes, "Oh man," and he opens the door and he throws it in drive and the engine stalls. Opens the hood. Steam is coming out of this thing. This engine was fucking cooked. It was cooked. This, you could smell the heat coming off of this thing. I'm not just talking about like a normal car that doesn't have these issues where you go on like a long trip and you get where you're going and you open the hood and it's like blazing hot. This is like twice as hot as that. It was, the amount of heat coming off this thing was fucking ridiculous. Puddle of coolant on the ground, so obviously it had overheated and was spewing coolant out, so it was just on its path to kill itself. And the cousin went around. It had a plastic timing belt cover, and how and why he grabbed it, I don't know, but he actually grabbed it and ripped it off, and the plastic had gotten so hot it was melty, and it just ripped right off. The bolts and the studs and all that stuff stayed behind, but the cover was all hot and melty, and he just ripped it off and threw it on the ground, and that was the end of Tuan's car. So when you have a problem like my car won't shut off, try to explain it and learn what the fuck happens, because if you don't, that'll cost you your car. And it cost Tuan his car, and that was the end of the story. Yep. I remember asking him like a week later, he's like, no, my cousin said that thing's shot, man. It was dead. That was the end of it. But yeah, bad news. Definitely bad news. So anyway, that wraps up this final installment of all of the old war stories with Uncle Jay that I am recording today. There will be more, probably outside, but you're going to be seeing those like in the dead of winter with the way these recordings are going, just the way it ends up working out. So that's that. But probably be in a new location next time, unless it's too hot out and I want to just sit here in the AC. I haven't decided yet. Don't know when it's going to be. But when it does, make sure that you're subscribed and hit that little bell and all that other bullshit that YouTube makes you do, the busy box kind of Fisher Price thing. So that way you'll know when I post another video. Always on Sundays, going forward till a few years yet, probably. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. Make sure you click like, make sure you click subscribe, and take care. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.